Well, it looks like POCO aren't slowing down at all. In fact, they're speeding up. We've got the POCO M5 series now. We just had the M4 5G, and I do have the M5. There's a separate video of the review of that one, but this is all about the M5S. So the M5S, this one has the Helio G95 in it. We've got an Super AMOLED screen, 60 Hertz unfortunately, so it's not 90, it's not 120, but it's a very good panel. It's flat, 6.43 inches. And my model here that was sent out to me does have 6 gigabytes of RAM and 128 gigabytes of storage. It takes dual nano SIMs, micro SD card support, 33 watt charging, a 5,000 milliamp hour battery, and a design that looks, wow, super familiar, right? It's very similar, a bit of deja vu. Well, that's because it's, well, pretty much a Redmi Note 10, just with a few little tweaks and now branded as a POCO. So apart from that, the camera modules on the rear, well, the main camera is 64 megapixels instead of, say, 48 that we had with the Note 10. There are a few little changes and tweaks, and of course we've got POCO Launcher and their software. I'll be going over all of that in this in-depth review of the new POCO M5S. Included with the M5S, you'll find a TPU case. It's a clear one. We get a warranty card, quick start guide, and safety information. Then a Type-C to Type-A cable and our 33-watt charger. It's not a large charger, good size to it. Now, when you look at this design, the first thing that I thought was, whoa, hang on, this is deja vu. I've already reviewed this. So this is basically the Redmi Note 10, but this part is different and it now says POCO. So it's stating POCO, and that's really about it. But the camera, instead of being 48 megapixels, is now 64. We still have the 8 megapixel ultra wide, 2 megapixel for depth, and another 2 megapixel for macro. Glass on the back here, then the front is also Gorilla Glass, the in-screen fingerprint reader, which, by the way, just demonstrating now, just touched it a little bit odd just then, but it actually does work really well. This one's reasonably quick. Look at that. Okay, for some reason it's gone really slow, but it's normally a lot faster than that. So the same OLED screen here, well, sorry, Super AMOLED screen. This is 6.43 inches, Gorilla Glass 3 on it. But of course, we now have Android 12, MIUI 13 with it, and we still have the 13 megapixel camera in the front. So weight-wise, about 180 grams, and you're looking at a thickness of around about 8.5, 8.5 millimeters, just measuring along here, which is not too bad. The SIM tray, so it's one of those ones that will take 2 nano SIMs and a micro SD card, which is good. Then we have a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, mic, Type-C port, loudspeaker, and up the top, we do have another loudspeaker, secondary mic, noise cancellation, and used in video, and yes, an IR transmitter. So there's a lot of good things about it. The frame around it is plastic. The buttons here, they feel good, and that capacitive always-on fingerprint reader. But again, it is essentially just like they took the Redmi Note 10 and then put the POCO logo on it and made just two changes, really. The camera and then the chipset, the Helio G95. Instead of the Snapdragon, what did I have? The 678 in the Note 10. Now let's take a look at our screen. So it is a flat Super AMOLED panel, and it's a very nice screen. Of course, I've seen it before. It's really nice, fully laminated with that Gorilla Glass 3. Uniformed color too. So you're going to get no darker patches around where the cutout is for that 13 megapixel front-facing camera. That's the good thing about the OLED screens. Blacks are very, very deep. You get no light leakage coming in. None of that is present. Now, this screen, they do claim that it's going to be about, I think, 700 nits, the brightness, but I'm measuring around 620. It's very bright, and it can peak in the sunlight mode when it detects that the ambient light's very bright to over 1,000 nits, and you can make it out in direct sunlight. This is a fantastic screen. It really is good. So under settings here, you'll see that we've got a few options, one of which I really do like to see, and that is, of course, anti-flicker mode, aka DC dimming. So DC dimming is there. That's why we're seeing absolutely no banding, no flickering happening on camera. It's a great screen. However, it's got one thing, just one thing, and that is, it is, of course, 60 hertz, all right? So it's not a 90 hertz screen, unfortunately. Now, if this was exactly the same, but at 90 hertz, I would have been, wow, all over this, especially at the price point. If you still like 60 hertz and you like these kind of screens, by all means, go for it. I mean, you can get the POCO M5, but that is a 90 hertz but IPS screen. It does not look as good as this, but it's a lot smoother, the UI, and you definitely do notice it. Now, gestures are working good. Touch response is good. No complaints there. Overall, it's a very nice screen, just 60 hertz. This M5S is running Android 12 with MIUI 13. Now, the performance is pretty good normally. It's only the Helio G95, and I'll get on to synthetic benchmark scores and gaming later on. Performance is good. Scrolling here looks fine, but of course it's not as smooth as running the UI at 90 frames per second, 90 hertz. If we did have that, of course, would be really good. So as I mentioned, those gestures are working good. Multitasking is great. The fingerprint unlocking, as I demonstrated when we first looked at the design, is occasionally just a little bit slow there. You can see like 1, 2, almost 2 seconds there. Now I have noticed a couple of times just a few little stutters happening too with the UI, that you occasionally see some animation lag, and a few times unlocking it, you will see that little spinning icon there as it just starts to then load in MIUI's launcher. And it's only occasionally, it seems to happen when you haven't used the phone for a while. For example, overnight charging, you go to unlock it, and there's just that a little bit of lag there. But it's not too bad. It's just that really with the launcher, just minor things. So we have 33 watt charging with a 5,000 milliamp hour battery. It's a very large battery. Now, charge time for me from 19% to 100 took 101 minutes. Now, they do claim that it should be around about, I think it's 74 minutes, so it's a little bit slower than that, actually quite a bit slower there. So it's not incredibly quick, but it's not too bad considering the battery capacity. Now, it'd be great if it was around an hour or under an hour, 20 minutes shorter, but hey, it's only 20 minutes. So battery life, very good on this. That's because, well, it's running at 60 hertz, not 120 hertz, and it's got that large battery capacity. So you're looking at with a fixed battery test here. So this is a looped test, 200 nits brightness. It goes for a really good time here. But real world use, you're looking around 9 hours, okay? So about 9 hours of on-screen time. Now, if this was 120 hertz, then it would not be, of course, 9 hours of real world use. It would be more like 7 there. So it does make a bit of a difference. That 60 hertz definitely uses less battery. So we can see here, performance-wise, it is better than the Dimensity, okay? The Dimensity 700 that's in the POCO M4 5G, if I don't get confused here with so many different POCO models now, it is a little bit better, especially the GPU performance. Instead of this being 70,000 points, it's 91, and gaming-wise, you'll see later on too, there's a noticeable bit of difference. So we've got UFS 2.2 storage, and those speeds, I mean, they're not bad. They're not going to be bottlenecking or holding up this phone's performance. It would be more the chipset that actually will be doing that limitation there, not really the storage. Not with this kind of power anyway that we do have. So the audio bitrate for video is 192 kilobits per second. This is good to see. I like to see at least this or 256 or 320 that they sometimes use in their flagship models. At least it's not 96 kilobits per second for audio, which can be a little poor there. So there is a lot of bloatware. I mentioned this in all of the videos of their products. So MIUI is extremely bloated to start with, 2.5 gigabytes worth. But you can go through in the system, apps, uninstall, and quickly remove all of this in about 2 or 3 minutes. You can get rid of everything. So it's not too much of an issue, but it's there, and I wish they would just tone down a little bit. Also this, if you do install applications, your own APK files, you will probably see this. So they have an installer that puts ads in front of your face. So I don't like this. I don't like these adverts. We're paying for this phone. Why are you putting ads in system apps? This, I think they need to do something about and address. They did comment before that they were going to tone down on it or completely remove it, but hey, it's still there. And here are some examples of just some of those bloatware apps that you will have when you first power it on. So TikTok, Funtile, some games, Spotify, a few other bits and pieces, which may not be bloat for some people. So I really like the fact that we've got a 3.5mm headphone jack on this, and the audio quality out of it does sound good using these HD Pros. So loudspeaker-wise, one down the bottom here, the other at the top. They're of average quality, and it's great that we do have dual loudspeakers. Here is a sample at 100% volume, just to give you an idea of what it's going to be like. Pretty good bass to start with anyway, and that's only about 30% volume. And here's X bass. So can that MediaTek Helio G95 game? Well, if you're going to be playing PUBG, this is the maximum we can set with our frame rate. So we've got extreme and smooth. So that's good. It's one of the higher frame rate settings there. We'll take a look and see how it performs. So the performance is good. I like the 60 frames per second. It is very smooth for gaming here. And whoa, 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 whoa. Oh, I got really lucky there. So you can get kills and I'm not experiencing any lag. Now, one thing I'm noticing too when gaming is that the Helio G95 really is not heating up, and that's what you want. You don't want it to get really hot and start to throttle. That doesn't seem to be the case here. Performance is good. So if you do intend to play a lot of PUBG with this phone, I think it's going to be fine for that. And it looks like I've got, oh, someone shooting at me or again. That must be another bot there. Let's see if I can dispatch them. Where on earth are they? Nope, behind me here. Definitely a bot. Okay, so great for PUBG. And our camera. So this is the front-facing 13 megapixel selfie cam. Not bad quality, actually. I think it's pretty good. The colors. This is indoors, the 64 megapixel mode, shot of my cat Vera. A lot of detail captured. And portrait mode here, too, of my daughter. I think the stitching is okay. Not the best there, but still a pleasant photo. And this surprised me. Macro shot looks really good. Look at all that detail and the fine furs, hairs you can see there. Ultra-wide camera. Little disappointing, looks a little bit washed out. It's only 8 megapixels. The night mode now with the main camera, it tends to do okay if it's not complete pitch black, but later on you can see there's a lot more noise to these photos here. It looks a little washed out, and look at the sky. While it looks like a good photo, when you zoom in, you crop in 200%, the sky has quite a bit of noise. But for the price point, the set of cameras, I think, are actually reasonably good. Let's have a look at video. So this front-facing camera, you can shoot only 1080p 30 frames per second. There is no 1080p 60 option. It does, however, have electronic image stabilization. Audio bitrate is 192 kilobits per second. So this video quality is a lot better than what we get with the POCO M5. The M5 5G only has, well, 1080p 30 with the rear cameras max, but it doesn't have any electronic image stabilization, so it's a big shaky mess. So if you need the superior cameras, definitely go for the POCO M5S model instead of the M5. This is our 64 megapixel rear sensor, so it can shoot 4K 30 frames per second. However, at 4K we don't have electronic image stabilization. So if you need the electronic image stabilization, you need to go then to 1080p 30, which will give us the electronic image stabilization. This footage does look sharp. It's just without the stabilization, it's not really that usable unless you have a very steady hand or you plan to use a gimbal. Now the focus, that hasn't really had any issues in the time I have been testing out these cameras. This is our ultra-wide camera, so it only allows for 1080p video, 30 frames per second, no 30 frames 60 option. And as I do pan around here, you can see the quality definitely looks far inferior to what we do have with that main camera. Is a lot better. So it's only an 8 megapixel sensor, and well, it has its limitations here with video quality, especially around the edges. And a sample of 4K at night in low light. Definitely not as good as daylight as you'd expect for these small sensors. Even if it's 64 megapixels, it still is a tiny sensor. So you cannot overlook the fact that the price they're selling this for and the early bird pricing, there is so much on offer with the phone that we've got Gorilla Glass 3, a flat screen AMOLED panel that's very bright, but yes, of course, it's only 60 Hertz. Now, if you want a 90 Hertz panel, you can go for the POCO 5G. Faster, smoother, 90 Hertz. However, the screen is an IPS, and in comparison to this one, so using and looking them both side by side, it definitely looks a little bit more washed out, that at certain angles, you're not getting that same viewing experience. Definitely not compared to the AMOLED here with its uniform colors, bright colors, vibrant colors. It's a good screen, and it's got DC dimming too, so you're not going to see any flickers or anything. You don't see flicker, of course, with an IPS panel too as well. The build quality is superior. It feels a little bit better, rounded in hand. It's got the 64 megapixel camera. That one has the 50. There's a few differences there with them, and overall performance of this phone isn't bad at all. I did point out that the fingerprint reader capacitor is on. I'll just touch it now. Yes, yeah, it's a little slow there. Hopefully they can speed that up with some firmware updates and the occasional little animation lags that I'm seeing, especially when you haven't used the phone for a while. You go to unlock it, you sometimes see that little spinning loading the launcher icon there, which is not too great there. So bloatware, there's plenty of bloatware on this when you first power it on. I wish they'd tone down on that, and especially the advertising and system apps is another area. So it is a decent package. We've got the 3.5mm headphone jack, micro SD card support, great battery life, 5,000 mAh battery. So if you're just with, say, social media, WhatsApp, things like that, light kind of use, we'll go for about 8-9 hours of on-screen time. Gaming, around about 5 there too. And gaming performance, the Helio G95, while it's no top dog chipset, it's no flagship level, but it's still good. It can play all of those games out there with a good performance. Like look at PUBG, for example, that was running really well on this phone. So for the price, for its value proposition and where it is placed, yes, there's a lot on offer there, but we're getting so many models here, POCO, slow down. I mean, us reviewers, we can't almost keep up. I only just reviewed the POCO M4 5G, so check out my review of that. And now we've got the M5, so we're going from M4, 5G to M5S to M5 that we have here too. So there's a separate video on this particular model here, which does have, of course, its differences. It's got the Helio G99, that 90Hz IPS screen as mentioned there before. So thanks a lot for watching this video, and I do hope to see you back in the next one. Do subscribe if you like these detailed, longer tech reviews that aren't just TikTok 2-minute reviews.